Women are very good at time management, but they are very bad at guilt management.
I was like, oh my god, what is the society going to say? I'm just 26 years old and I'm just 3 months into my marriage. How did this happen? Why did this happen? I was crying. Instead of enjoying the moment, I was crying.
When we go to someone's house, and if it's a really nice house, we say, oh, she has kept the house really well. We do not actually automatically go to the guy because these responsibilities are seen as the woman's responsibility at home.
Hello and welcome to Sisterhood with me, Shaili, the one show where we confront our challenges and confess our insecurities and together figure out what to do about them. It's 2022 and we're still discussing how men and women should share their responsibility on household chores. Men feel far more comfortable sharing the workload with other men rather than with their wives. Why is it after so many decades and centuries, majority of the household burden still falls on women? In fact, as per a latest survey, 83% women believe that men don't see women as their equals. How can we change that? What can we do by which women can finally have more support at home so they can go out and fulfill their dreams the way they'd like to? Make career choices they've always wanted to have support at home as a homemaker, have household chores divided equally, children's responsibility divided equally, and have time for themselves just as others do to enjoy and make choices they've always wanted to have. We're going to debate this entire issue thoroughbred as to why even in 2022 we deserve to have this conversation. What does it take to improve communication between couples to ensure everyone is on track to do their own bit? Here is my guest list on sisterhood on this episode. First up, Piyush and Yamini call themselves influencers, and Yamini from the couple joins us on the show to talk about why they are so public about the importance of sharing responsibility as a couple. Nikhil and Shanice are on YouTube and are constantly reminding people what it takes to be a young couple, a young family raiser with a brand new baby who they're trying to together raise. What does it take for young couples to ensure that there is no friction when it comes to sharing responsibility and keeping the love alive? We've also got Akanksha, who during the pandemic has become this star shuffler who literally delights us every day with her videos. How has she managed to keep up with a brand new hobby as well as turning that into a career, having family backing and support of her husband? What did it take? Also joining me on the show is Enaakshee Deva, Director of Brand Communications, Fabric and Home Care at Procter & Gamble, to put the spotlight on the campaign of Share the Load. And we'll also have Shubhreet with us, who is now back at work. She had 2 children over the last few years. And how has she managed to make a comeback in her career? Why communication was so important? All that and much more will be in the spotlight. First up to you, Akanksha. The pandemic really changed a lot of things for you as you try to move into a new aspect of your life, trying to shuffle. Now, you and your husband do share a fair bit of responsibility at home, but how did that entire thing start? How did you guys build a relationship of equals?
Yeah, it definitely has its challenges. It has its share of sacrifices, but I think as a team, you can do wonders. So I would not say that our men are too conditioned to doing, being handy around the house. But if I ask even my father-in-law, for that matter, and my husband is always there. If I ask them, then they're always there.
Nikhil and Shanice have been documenting their couple life for some time. They call themselves a young couple with a little baby. They are 25, 26, already have a child now, and they are constantly online talking about the challenges as well as the efforts they're making to ensure they are both in this. So tell us, Shanice, how has it been for the two of you?
I think I consider myself extremely lucky that I have a husband who actually thinks it's an equal job to share all the duties with me. Because as a woman, it gets really tough once you become a new mother to handle everything by yourself. There's so much pressure from the society that a mother should do everything by herself. And I would not say all men, but many men don't share equal loads with their wives. once they become a mother. This like let the woman do everything by herself, let her take care of the baby by herself, and then they don't do so much. But with Nikhil, it's like we share it half and half.
Piyush and Yamini, you guys have been on Instagram talking about your journey together. But why did you feel it was important to talk to the rest of the world?
So when we got married, it was an arranged marriage, but we both had in mind that our careers are also important as much as our personal lives, and in that sense, we've always had the same vision about our life. And just one day, suddenly, Piyush came up with the idea that we should start a blog where you promote your business. The idea behind starting this page was to promote my business, but then it grew in ways that we couldn't even imagine. Like people started appreciating and adoring us as a couple. So I think that's how we started our professional lives. Somewhere got intersected with each other, and that is since then we've just been together, achieving our goals, and we are trying to create a life that we have in mind for each other.
Shubhreet, now I've been watching you for a while talking about many issues that couples face. They go through their sort of challenges, their insecurities. But one thing that I really want to ask you is that why is communication such an important part of how men and women share responsibility for household work?
I think unfortunately, and it's completely not fair. And COVID was one thing that kind of proved it because we had more women who had to leave their jobs due to the lockdowns than men did, because of increased responsibilities at home. And that's an example of the fact that it is still not fairly distributed when it comes to responsibilities at home for majority of the people. I'm not saying all, but for majority, that is still the case. It is the female of the house that is expected to be in charge of how the kids' school being packed, the lunch being packed, dinner being made at home, is the house being cleaned. When we go to someone's house, and if it's a really nice house, we say, oh, she has kept the house really well. We do not actually automatically go to the guy because these responsibilities are seen as the woman's responsibility at home. And that needs to change. That definitely needs to change. And which is also one of the reasons I'm very vocal about it and talk about our journey. But this is where, like you rightly said, communication needs to come into the picture. And whether it is household work, whether it is baby related work, whether it is dropping kids to school or figuring out what what they're going to eat for lunch, there needs to be constant communication between the partners, and they need to kind of realize that your house is something you manage together. It is a shared responsibility. Your children, both of you have had them together, so raising them is your shared responsibility.
So Shanice, when you were being raised, how much of this conversation was alive, being somebody who is who has an all girls household, that when you grow up you have to ensure that the house is done, you should be a great homemaker, you should know how to do great interiors, manage the house, manage the husband, manage the family. Did that pressure build up growing up?
My dad used to share every single responsibility and duty with my mom. So he used to work at the airport like as a night shift, and my mom was a teacher. So she would go out in the daytime and my dad would be sleeping. But he would come back home if my mom was busy. He would cook for us. He would wash the clothes. He would do the dishes. He took care of us. He used to be like a mom when our mom wasn't there. So seeing my dad and mom share that kind of relationship, it was beautiful. So I have been conditioned to feel like women and men both are equal, and it's okay for a man to share the load with his wife about everything. But yes, I will not deny, growing up I have seen how my dad used to be yelled by his mother saying that this is not a man's job to do, why you're doing this, it's not okay. And then my mom used to get yelled at by relatives. यार तुम्हारा आदमी, तुम उनको क्या ऐसे औरतों का काम कराती हो, तुमको शर्म आना चाहिए, and stuff like that. And then my dad and mom would take a stand for each other and say that, you know what, this is our relationship, our house, our rules, we decide what to do.
Akanksha, I want to ask you a question point blank. Do you think women are ashamed of asking for help, asking for sharing the load? Because sometimes, and I'm not saying it's the responsibility of women to educate men, but sometimes it doesn't occur to men, and maybe part of that change is to get them to start recognizing that, because when somebody asks, they know they need to also pitch in.
Yes, because women are very good at time management, but they are very bad at guilt management. So we feel guilty. We end up feeling guilty that maybe it's not their job to do this and we are making them do this. So maybe we don't ask enough also. I think somewhere there we only condition ourselves that we need to manage our time and manage everything, compress everything into that one day that we have, and not feel guilty about anything that we have left out. So we want to also tick off all the chores that we have in the day. We want to be a good mom, we want to be a good wife, a good daughter-in-law, and I think that matters a lot to us somewhere. Although I keep on saying, that people pleasing should stop. We should stop pleasing people, and we should just start being happy ourselves. But somewhere, even we are conditioned in that same way. Maybe after our generation, maybe things will change. But still, in our generation, this is a fact that we are more inclined towards making the house perfect.
Shubhreet, coming back to you, I mean, I started this show by saying it's 2022. Why are we still needing to have a public conversation on it? I mean, this all important campaign constantly reminding people to share the load. Why is it that we still need to do this?
I genuinely wish there wasn't. If you go to places like Copenhagen, you know, I mean, it's amazing how gender equality hits you there in the face.
Yeah.
You're not conditioned to it. When I went there, and I saw how there is literally no difference considered. And I'm just talking in everyday things also, going out, partying, relationships, work, maternity, paternity leave. The first year might be a paternity leave taken by the man and not by the woman, who might actually take her maternity leave later once the child is 1 year old. There's literally just no difference, and it's not even talked about. It's just things that are obvious, and it kind of hits you because you're just like, oh, no one has to mention this. This is just happening on its own. No one's talking about it. But we in India are not there yet.
Let's bring another perspective. The pandemic has really led a lot of men to do more housework at home. At least that's the perception. We've seen lots of them come to social media and talk about how they were cooking or cleaning. But as the pandemic gets off, we see situation going back to status quo. What can be done to ensure that that glimpse of what women go through, that men got, is something that leads to real results in sharing the responsibility?
I think you're touching upon a very pertinent issue here. And like you said, right, when the pandemic hit, everyone was confined to their households. So the household was not just the home, it was an office, a school, a playground. And as unfortunate that the COVID situation has been, and in fact, like you were saying, they were putting up posts on social media so proudly, talking about the first roti that they've made, the first experience in sweeping the house, the first load of laundry. In fact, we also did a survey that told us that 95% of men had actually contributed to household chores during the pandemic. But like you said, as things are going back to normal, as external help has started to come in, as the load is reducing, as the medical situation is slowly improving, this has not continued as a trend. In fact, 7 out of 10 women that we surveyed have said that their partners who helped during the lockdown have stopped later. And that's why we also hope that this year's Share the Load movement is a timely message of change.
How are brands like Ariel driving this change? What have you seen in the last few years of the many campaigns on sharing the load that you have run?
We've seen over the years that conversations have proven to be the most effective tool to challenge stereotypes. And all of us have biases, all of us have our own unconscious biases, something that we are also not realizing that we are sort of restricted by. And if we want to challenge years and years, in fact, decades of conditioning, and conditioning that is being reinforced almost on a daily basis by different triggers that we see around us, right? And that trigger can be a conversation. It can be something that makes us realize that we are probably not being as progressive or as equal as we had thought we were. And, that's why over the years, what we've tried to do is to raise questions, is to trigger platforms or terminology that can help bring out these conversations, be it on social media or be it within families at the dinner table, right? So like I was saying, the more uncomfortable the dinner table conversations, the more hope that change will come in.
Yamini, as a couple, you both have really made a public pledge to remind people, to inspire them by communicating upfront about the issues that the two of you would face and how you would solve them and how you sort of got around sharing responsibility. Why did you think that was important, perhaps using the power of digital?
So, as I said, we did not intend to start it like that. It was just something, a side hustle that we were doing just for fun, because we both, like food, like traveling, and just clicking pictures and posting. But somewhere down the line, and while doing this, we realized that a lot of people are very intrigued by our lifestyle and the fact that we are an arranged marriage couple and still we're doing all of this. And then as we went into it, we realized there are a lot of problems that couples or people who are looking to get married, they're facing. And this is something that we can help people with. And this is obviously an idea that if we put on a public forum, and that happened when we got a huge following. So with that, there were some responsibilities also. We had to tell our audience the right things that we think should the equality between the two gender. So it is something that happened eventually. We did not intend it like that, but yes, now we think because of the following that we have, and there's a certain responsibility. So now we don't hide away anything about our relationship.
Shanice and Nikhil, it's not been easy being young parents, and I hear that a lot in your own videos. But you're taking it in your stride. Did that put any sort of pressure being really young and having a child, and then this entire piece about sharing, responsibility, even though sort of you both have your own careers, and of course, making videos is a demanding part of your creator life.
The first time I found out I'm pregnant at 3 months, I was a little bit sad and I was shocked. Okay, I was really happy because I always wanted to be a mom. I love kids, but something inside me just broke and shattered. I was like, oh my god, what is the society going to say? I'm just 26 years old and I'm just 3 months into my marriage. How did this happen? Why did this happen? I was crying. Instead of enjoying the moment, I was crying. I came and told Nikhil, he was so happy, and I kind of ruined the moment for him. And that was not me. I sat down with Nikhil. I spoke to myself for 2 days to realize that what the society or what social media has done to me. In today's world, we are taught that women need to be aspirational, go out, achieve everything. You don't have to be a mom at an early age. You don't have to get married at an early age. And all those things are completely okay. But what happens is sometimes it just destroys those real moments in your head. So what happened to me, I couldn't enjoy the moment that would like change my life completely. Like today, the way I am with my baby, so happy. Looking back, I'm like, I would just go and like yell at that Shanice that what were you thinking even? Why did you let the society ruin that moment for you? That moment that means the most in your life. And I ruined that for him too, but he was really supportive. He was like, Shanice, calm down. If you do not want this, what do you want to do? So I was like, there's no way that I don't want this baby. I want this baby with everything because this is a lot to me. And then he was like, you know what? At the end of the day, we both have to live together. We have to live this moment together. And after that, I started enjoying everything. I accepted the pregnancy.
So, Akanksha, sharing the load clearly opens up a lot of opportunities for women as well, because it gives you time to do what you would wanted to do. It could be a hobby, it could be something you just take suddenly. You did that during the pandemic. How did shuffling happen?
I think that's also a lot of support from my husband, I should say, because I was locked down in March 2020 at my parents' place. I had gone to visit them, and then suddenly the lockdown was announced, and I was there. So, if he wanted, he could have taken a pass and gotten me back from there, because my in laws were quite badgering me to come back. And, my husband said, you stay. You stay. When is the next time you'll get this chance to stay with your parents for so long? We did not know it would stretch to 2.5 months, but he actually didn't bother me. He handled things at home. He cooked, he cleaned, he did everything at home. Because of that, I could stay at my parents' place, and I was trying to utilize my time out there. So I had downloaded TikTok, and I was very intrigued by these shuffling videos, and I tried them out. I just tried them out, and I found them so much fun. It was so fun doing them, and it was exhausting. It was very intimidating. It felt very accomplishing. So from one step, I went to the other, and there were these challenges. I was having a lot of fun.
We've been having some really meaningful discussions here on sisterhood, and I think it's important to just sort of recap what we started with. I'm going to come over to you, Yamini, for the laundry list of things that couples should put down when it comes to, their relationship and ensuring that they're both pitching in on various kinds of responsibilities.
Uh, Actually, it is so subjective. It is completely dependent. So Piyush, he's a foodie, but he doesn't like cooking as much. But he loves chopping, which is yeah, he loves chopping. So whenever we on Sundays, whenever we both are free and we're done with our work, we always try to make something, try some new cuisines at home. So he's the one who's always chopping all the veggies, and he's so good at it. He loves it, and I am the one who's cooking. So that's just one example of how we do it. It depends on what the other person wants to do.
What we watch on screen can have a big impact on the way we behave as people. But other than entertainment, we also look up to many celebrities and stars and actors and artists all the time. What is the life like for many of them when it comes to sharing responsibilities? What are their experiences and perspectives? I had a chance to speak with Neha Dhupia, and this is how she and her husband have shared the load with two babies coming through.
It's easy because we don't demarcate. So it's not like, oh, driving the kids to school is something that he'll do, and then changing the diapers is something that I do. So it's like whoever's there, whatever time, I'm just like, hey, can you get them dressed, and then I'll go for my training, and at 8:30 I'll drop her off to school. So it's first come first serve basis.
I also spoke with Amrita Puri about how young women need to be portrayed on screen, and importantly, how they look at the idea of being a shared partner rather than a partner in a relationship to fulfill, a marriage, so to speak, and not have an equal relationship.
The only thing is that it doesn't happen enough in society, in an average Indian household. So if you're showing an average Indian household, a story of an average Indian household, and it needs to be realistic, you're going to draw from what's actually happening, right? So it's tough. You can have a few roles like that, and it's important. But if you are showing a typical Indian household, then it has to be true to life. It needs to change in life first for it to start changing on screen, is what I believe.
What's clearly been established in the pandemic is that men do need to rise to the occasion and start helping out at home. They did that for a bit, and things as they come to normal, we are seeing more and more men get back to work. What should not change is that very important element of learning that we do need to have shared responsibility and sharing of load at home. With that spirit, we've had a chance to bring you some fantastic voices from across social creators as well as those in pop culture and media. But we do hope it has brought in a seed of thinking in your mind to explore how every single day we ask ourselves, how do I share the load?